Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, I'm going to be going through my final year undergrad architecture project, and hopefully by going through the different stages I worked on, it gives you a better idea of what a first-class portfolio looks like. Now, let's get straight into it. The first part of the project is called the BA3 Design Major Project Preparation, and my project was entitled Resilient Cities. Going through the initiation and explaining kind of like what the project is in a couple of sentences, keeping it really short and brief, just so not only my tutor understands like the premise of my project, but also I can synthesize it for myself and give like a really clear, short explanation of what's coming up, what the project is based on, and how I'm gonna kind of approach it really. Some community analysis. At the beginning, this is always like hit and miss with some students. Some people love it, some people don't like it, but it's really the fundamentals of understanding your project and like kind of how are you going to tackle it? What are the information? What's the data, and how is the data that you've analyzed and researched going to support your work? So it's really important. And I think right now was the age of population by percentage, the population of Peckham, and the Peckham immigration statistics, and some key words such as segregation, crime, opportunity, psychological, conflict, freedom, all these different aspects and all these different kind of takes that you can have on a project. This is the time to kind of really delve into it and actually have fun and enjoy the research aspect. The history of Peckham. I know it's an undergrad project and you should be like kind of really serious with all the research you do. Oh, actually, that's a now that I've seen this QR code, that's a short video I also made, but it got flagged up on YouTube for copyright, so it's a bit annoying. But it was still, yeah, just a really quick short animation of the Peckham riots. But going back to the history of Peckham, some really quick information, kind of give the foundations of like how the city came about, what used to happen, what the city was known, what the area was known for, not the city, but the area of London of Peckham was known for, and over the years what's happened, and the rebuilding of the place itself. Initial understanding, so breaking it down to the three areas: urban ecology, urban nomad, and to retaining the community and developing. And initial site plotting, so quickly going back to the previous page of initial understanding, these are all photos at Peckham, of Peckham, and even when we did a site visit, walking through the Peckham High Street, it's a really cultural rich place. And you know, Peckham's been known in the past and maybe still currently as like a really high crime rate area. But as you're walking through, there's such a feeling of community and such a feeling of just international greatness, to be honest. I mean, it's so diverse, and as some people on the site trip didn't really like walking through Peckham High Street, but I don't know, maybe it's like my background and the different cultures of walking through that I really enjoyed it for some reason. I don't know. So yeah, initial site plotting, identifying areas of the proposed plots, the areas to consider my approach, and areas of connection, kind of where those two areas come together. Is there some sort of web, a network that I can kind of work from? Understanding the site. Wow, just looking back on like some undergrad work kind of put me to shame really. I mean, it's the layout of the pages, some of the, what do you call it, the format compared to what I do now is kind of crazy. But just like a digimap screenshot, and then tracing the digimap of Peckham, and then identifying these areas, and then putting the corresponding images next to them just to give a better understanding for the examiner and the tutor, and also for myself, to be honest. So when I'm going back through, when I'm looking at these areas, I know what they look like, I know how I should be designing in response to these areas too. What's happened here? Here we go, zoning analysis, site visit and photo montage. So these are all different photos that I took along during my visit of Peckham. On the right is just some general ones, and then on the left, well, on the top left, the bigger kind of photo montage and collage is just everything kind of collated together. What are these different strands within Peckham that are coming together that I can then work on and build from too. Contextualizing the community data, so Peckham through the years, regeneration of Peckham, and the movement of people and Peckham itself. Kind of this flow, this journey. What is it? What did it look like? What's happened to it, and what's going to happen? What's in the making now? And that's also very important. Initial approach as inspiration. So yeah, looking at all of these different presidents, some of them you've probably seen that I still use some of them even in masters now, because not necessarily the specific president, but the architect or the designers that have worked on these projects and these companies. I think it's so important just to really immerse yourself, whether it's Pinterest, whether it's going on the practice websites to understand and really delve deep into what are they creating, why are they creating it, and what are they responding to. It's something that's really kind of underestimated, I think, and I think that architecture students, especially in undergrad, where you're trying to learn all the fundamentals, all the basics, and trying to develop yourself as a creative, understanding people's work is a must, and I think a bigger push and a bigger emphasis for this is really needed. Again, some more inspiration and initial approach ideas and precedents. You can look at inspiration, but then you have to delve deeper into precedents that are going to be relating to your work, to your projects. What are you going to be bringing? What am I bringing to Peckham? How can I understand and through studying the controversial social housing from Elemental or the Monterey housing, or even metabolism by the Nakajin capsule, all these different aspects, how can I tie them together? Is there something that relates from this project and I can mix it with that one and then fuse it to create my own kind of architectural language? I think by talking now, it seems much easier, just because I've been at architecture school for nearly 5 years now. But going back to that 2.5 to 3 year period and final year, it's really, it's really, I don't even know what the word is, really kind of premature, and really you're still developing. And I think it was kind of hard for me to really understand the importance of analyzing precedents. So when it comes to it in your projects, you really should be delving deeper and understanding what's going on. Why are things built the way they are? How can I use a certain kind of prototype for my benefit? Yeah. Oh, that page didn't come out well. Oh, I think it's just for the PDF, but that's a shame. But yeah, the concept and history of metabolism and the movement's legacy. Additional exploration of precedents. So yeah, you're never limited. Keep exploring, keep researching. Peckham projects that are happening in Peckham, a crowd-funded project, Peckham Coal Line Urban Park, and the Peckham Experiment. And I could do a whole video on the Peckham Experiment, but if you want to research that, it's actually really interesting, like the way that it went about and what it was actually like kind of about, to be honest. It kind of opened my eyes into, wow, like different spaces could be used for, obviously we know that different spaces are used for different purposes. However, the way in which the Peckham Experiment existed and what actually happened is so fascinating. And I think that if something like that was to happen again, I don't know if it actually will be possible, just because in today's current climate and how the world is now, it's really different, but it's really interesting. And I think that kind of more experimental buildings, more experimental types of architecture for humans, more human psychology and humans' well-being, that's really fascinating. What creates social divide? This was really important for me to do, and this is probably one of the most, important pages, I'd say, in the portfolio. So under naming down and stating the things on the left: poor upbringing conditions, not exposed to much culture and experiences, not having the job they want, issues with friends and family, all these things that create social divide. So what do these things lead to? Social pressure and tension between UK and international residents, yes. One view of life, limiting perspective, yes. Poor attitude continues through adulthood, no support from immediate family or the council, unresponsible actions as a result of these factors. These are real life things. These are things that we should be considering. These are things that we should be designing in response to. Now, as architects and designers, I can't speak as an architect because I'm not fully qualified or licensed yet, but as an aspiring architect, the way that we use what's happening in the real world to determine and kind of provide an outcome for the designs that we produce is so important. These things all lead into the next category of culture, politics, education, employment, and the environment. And all of these collected together, all of these 5 points, all of these lead to the deterioration of community, which leads to a social divide. So we see design now, and I think it's a really interesting and complicated and complex kind of stage where you have to create buildings, you have to create environments which can kind of mitigate the impacts of certain areas of people's lives depending on that certain site and neighborhood and the people and the cultures, all of these layers on top of each other. It's so hard to please everything and everyone. And I've often heard from tutors that the more you try to do to please, or the things you try to do to solve problems, the end result actually results to nothing. So the more specific you are, now that I'm mastered, the more specific you are to what you want to solve, the better the outcome will be. And that's really interesting, and something that I wish I knew in undergrad. But of course, during undergrad architecture, you have to just go, learn as much as you can, produce as much as you can. It's kind of a collection of all of your understanding from the past 3 years. Impacts of mistreating the community. So more social divide leads to division between individuals and groups, which leads to high rates of crime, livelihoods at risk, negative social impacts, which leads to a collapse of the area, and internal and external inequality on the area. Design artifact and scenario that I created. This was very initial. This was just a collage that I did of what could be designed within Peckham. Studio notes. I think this was a really important note from my tutor, the sketch that he did, because my final year was actually during COVID and the lockdown, and we were at home, couldn't go to university, everything was online. It was really hard. But tutoring, my tutors sketched feedback on kind of working with the rail line in that area of Peckham. It says, in order to make my project more coherent, it's important to produce a proposal that creates a flow and enables a clear story to be understood in response to the context. Post-review exploration. Oh my god, this layout is killing me. Acknowledging the current contextual situation and then identifying zones of influence, both building and important functional spaces. Intentions. For me, these were kind of some of the 9 intentions that I kind of highlighted and I wanted to work on. But for your projects, it will be either something similar or, probably not similar. Every project's different. So outlining these will make it more structured in the way that you're going to approach and respond to the site. Peer review notes, retaining the community, urban nomad these are just notes from some people in my studio. I don't know why we had to include that. Positive influence. Peckham, what does the community need to revert social divide? Spaces to interact, meet, play, exercise, celebrate. And all of those factors that I identified in a couple slides before, all of that leads to a celebration of the diversity and the rich culture within Peckham itself. Sense of community. And now we're going to go through quickly the current and proposed changes to the different sites that I kind of outlined to work on. So site 1, the currently used as a fast food restaurant in the lower half, which is unused office room sitting above. So what are the actions? Create additional public space outside the building, create a building specifically designed as a social hub for the community. Site 2, currently used for shops such as carpet retail, cosmetics, and secondhand gaming. Could it be, and then the actions that I propose is, could it be a building designed for the arts and sports, which will have a greater impact for the surrounding context and the people who live and work in Peckham? Site 3, what is that one? So is used as a discount shop which sits above a small supermarket store. However, I thought if we create offices, then it will lead to a greater growth in the local economy. And through this, irrespective of business type, more individuals within the area are being provided with the opportunity to progress with their livelihoods where they wouldn't be elsewhere. Especially close in London, Central is too expensive. So kind of working and developing the areas outside of Central is really, really vital. Site 4, small discount stores, bike repair shops, tasting rooms, consists of a large amount of unused land which is currently used for the railway, such as material storage. So I propose removing the existing site, the buildings within that area, building new public pods and elevate them in the space to use the space below for greater community interactions, and then integrate the arches as opportunities for further businesses, bars, cafes, shops. Really kind of bringing and elevating the profile and the attractiveness of Peckham to the area, and use unused spaces is such a key thing that goes over so many people's heads. But as designers and architects, we need to think of how can we use existing rundown areas and change the profile completely. Well, we don't have to do that. That's one of the things that we must do, but other things as well to develop the quality of life and the quality of spaces too. Site 5 consists of unused damaged property which was once used for businesses such as salons. So I proposed to create a building which provides office spaces for local businesses, responding to the site, and the other proposal is crucially important, and to ensure it contributes towards creating public spaces and continuing the story of my proposal in order to retain the community and benefit the locals. I think that Site 6 is the last one, I'm not sure, I think. This was such a long time ago. Currently, no sense of identity and any contributions towards society, and it questions the current impact of the site. And I propose to create an apartment block which will provide further housing for those within the community who can't afford to live in the area, so more affordable housing. This is definitely something that's happening right now in London, especially more affordable housing for especially like first-time buyers to get in. And this was a quick axonometric I did of kind of the proposed sites within the existing area. And breaking it down into, more of a site plan of residential apartments, offices, the main zone, public space 1, social buildings, public space 2, and the art and well-being building. Quick sectional cut, which we didn't have to do, which I found out later, which was so annoying because the quality of the outcome wasn't as what I wanted it to be, but I mean, it was just like an additional work I had to do, or I did. And yeah, this is the residential block. And then identifying, like, these are the perspectives now within the site as highlighted. And again, using those arches within the railway, how can people use these public spaces? How can people use the buildings and the pods within the middle of the railway kind of area? Yeah, sports. Again, another view of the residential block. Markets running through, what it's like in the summer, winter. I mean, yeah, shameful. Looking at it now as a much more, I like to think a much more better architecture student, some of these renders. And urban conceptual artifacts, so creating quick models, quick sketches that fit on a kind of an A3, A2 printed sheet of paper. Really important just to get more of a physical, although it's conceptual, a more physical kind of representation and understanding for myself and how these would be laid out. And it was really hard to kind of, use these sort of create these models, especially during lockdown. So anything that was at my disposal at home just had to do. And Urban Artifact 2, using all of the inspirations that I had from previously that I've shown you, I created this model using just these foam cutouts, and then using Yoo-hoo, and the Yoo-hoo actually kind of gave this eroded, corroding effect on the foam. And I thought it was really interesting, being like, if I create these blocks, especially say if it was housing, what would it look like in the future if it was like eroded away? Could this create more interesting spaces or what? And I think we'll be seeing this definitely in the second half now that I'm gonna show you. Yeah, and in 3050, what's the space gonna look like? How are people gonna be using it? This was just a really initial kind of concept collage that I did. I think I also included something similar to this in the next half. But yeah, this was quite fun, although like it didn't take that long, but it was more abstract and more kind of an artistic approach, which I love doing, and I still love doing these sort of things. I wish we could be more, I wish the tutors could be more open for us to explore down these kind of routes instead of having us limited. But the fundamentals in undergrad are definitely important. And that's the final page. So now I'm going to be talking about the second half, which is much shorter, but it's the synthesis of the entire project and the outcome that I produced. All right, and now we've got the final part of the project, which is called the Major Project Synthesis and Hybrid Sustainable Housing, which is the kind of the scheme that I took from all of the urban macro scale of the beginning of the project that we just went through, and now I'm like focusing in on my scheme and what I want to create in Peckham. And I entitled the project Nexus, a regeneration project, put in Peckham first. So going through it, the initiation, we can already see some of the data, some of the research that I did previously, and including it on these pages. So urban ecology, urban nomad, retaining the community and develop. We can see that I highlighted the zone, highlighted the space between the two the train lines that I'm going to be working on. So that's going to be my site. And the previous, again, research and information and data from the immigration, the population, and all those sort of things. People, space and place, so we can see the challenges and tendencies that I've kind of identified. Flexibility equals functionality, neglected neighborhoods, global crisis, micro versus macro, all these different sorts of things that I was considering before now creating the final scheme. and housing, health, traveling to work, all this rich kind of data that's so necessary for me to understand and for me to know before creating the scheme. So we have the site plan 1 to 500. And then this is just all of the research, all of the process work that I did, understanding the clients, users, the needs, the additional considerations, humanitarian architecture. And that's just me dabbling into factors such as multicultural, flexible, sustainable, adaptable, interchangeable, future global crisis mitigation, more precedent research at the bottom, diagrams and quick initial visuals and spaces and sketches that I created and designed. And then on the right hand side, we see even more sketches, more illustrations of me kind of in the conceptual phases of the project. We have the 1 to 500 ground floor plan. We see the market entrance, water features, the Peckham Rye train station, shops, transport storage, cafes, restaurant, artist studios, well-being hubs, resident storage, and the main circulation block. All within this small area, within the strip between the two train lines. And thinking back on it now, I'm really happy with that. This was the approach I took because it keeps the existing site how it is, but then it redevelops it and it enables me to kind of bring my take and what I studied at the beginning of the project now into Peckham to hopefully improve quality of life, improve quality of services, which then raises the profile of Peckham itself. The different floor plans, we can see these are the different residential blocks that I've designed. So first floor, second floor, third and fourth. And then I created a quick highlighting each of the units, and then the floor plans for those units, and then the kind of 3D model of those spaces as well. So we have the residential accommodation number 1, which is a double bedroom, bathroom, kitchen and dining area, living area, and private outdoor space. Residential accommodation 2 is 1 double bedroom and 1 single bedroom, private and shared outdoor space, kitchen, bathroom, living and dining area. And it should say number 3, but it says number 2 for some reason. Residential accommodation 3, access from the stairs is located below where the residential accommodation 2 is located. 2 double bedrooms, larger open space for kitchen, dining and living area, a bathroom and a view into the outdoor space below. And these are the sections I created, and I don't know, I really liked them during undergrad. I still like them now because it reminds me of the time that I was so excited to create these different sections and the elevations too. And we can see some of the collages that I kind of implemented within that, different textures, different kind of areas that I researched before to do with like human biology as well, and integrated those subtly. You can see them, but it's really, really subtle into the visuals. And we have the environmental diagrams, kind of understanding and analyzing and labeling the reasonings for the materials I also chose, the section perspective and a scheme axonometric with the 3D section 2. And the perspectives, so we have like the entrance market space, axonometric showing the central core, the staircase, the views inside the lift looking out onto the ground floor, the ground floor view of the water features, the cafe arch, well-being, fitness center, offices, interior view of one of the residential apartments, and a perspective showing my view of the apartment studio where occupants each access each residency. So they can go in, they can go up, and can go through too. And this is the final page, and it kind of looks familiar. The bottom left, you've definitely seen that. I showed that just now. Well, in the early stage, the final sheet of the early stage of the project, but the future of resilience. So I'm going to read out what I wrote because I think it's really important, and it's something that I wish I could had more ability to dabble into during the project. But I concluded it thinking that this is how I envision the scheme to go, or should it go in the future. So I said, to conclude the major design project, I wanted to explore the unknown potential of the scheme by wondering if this project is designed to meet the needs of people of Peckham for 2040 to 2050, then what would the needs of the people in the year 3050 be? If the structures from this design project were to still exist, would people focus more on utilizing spaces in destruction instead of removing and rebuilding? And what if the same notion from the start of my project is continued? If spaces that were once barriers become meeting points and nodes of connection, could this be how communities are retained in the future? And I think that's the last page. Yeah, that is the last page. And I'm really happy that I was able to end it on this, but I really hope that by me going through the major project preparation that we saw in the first kind of third of this video, or first kind of second thirds, 2/3 of the video, me going through the research, the analysis, identifying zones, then breaking it down. What do I want to bring in these areas? Does it relate back to the data that I've already studied? And again, now using all of that information to create my own scheme, my own projects, me having a greater understanding of what I've researched, and now this is what I want to implement because of the studies and the data. I really hope this kind of brings a greater understanding for you if you're a final year student, even if you're a first and second year student in preparation, and things that you can start doing now actually that will kind of improve you as a creative and as a architecture student. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy this project. I think that if I was to go back to it again, I would be even more crazier with my outcome, because in undergrad, it felt like it was a bit more structured, and it's really weird because if anything, you feel like undergrad should be more expressive and creative, and then masters would be more regimented, structured, and the way that you go about the projects. But it's completely the opposite, and I wish that now that I have this more greater level of freedom in my work, I wish I had that 10 times more during undergrad, because the things that not only me but like other students could have created too, knowing their abilities, knowing their work ethic and how kind of their interests outside of architecture, that's the most important thing too. You can love architecture, you can love buildings and the built environment, but all the hobbies, all the interests you have outside are even more important too. So yeah, I hope it's brought you greater value from me going through this project, and thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. I hope this video has brought a greater insight into what it looks like to have a first-class architecture portfolio, and obviously it changes from university to university depending on how you're graded and the projects that you're working on, but I really hope that this brought you greater support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.